call the meeting to order. The committee's running the meeting, but it is officially a Jamaica school board meeting apparently. So we're calling the meeting to order at 7:05.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm pretty much going to read my thing. So, we'd like to thank you all who took the time to come this evening. There's actually quite a few more people than I thought might be here. That's great. I know there was a conflict with this meeting and the Leland and Gray budget info meeting tonight. If you have questions about the budget, there'll be an opportunity at the annual meeting on February 7th at Leland and Gray to ask any questions that you might have about that. And then there's, to tell your friends who went to that or didn't make it tonight, there's another meeting, a final meeting of this at Leland and Gray, and it is on
March 1st?
March 1st at 7 o'clock at Leland and Gray. We hope everyone received the mailer and has had a little bit of time to familiarize yourselves with the articles. They're about 33 pages long, so we didn't print them. And we have the handout that we've been giving you that's a comprehensive place where you can look and see everything that we've been doing for the last 6 months, all the videos, all the articles, the information. It'll give you links to different places. If you have more questions after tonight, you can go to that website and do feedback and ask a question, and then it'll get sent to us and we'll try to answer it or get the answer and get back to you. We're going to do another mailer that will have a lot of the questions that have been asked at the schools. We'll take out duplication and there'll be answers to questions, and it'll have where we're at that point. The purpose of this meeting is to convey information about the work of the Act 46 committee over the past 6 months and help the voters, be prepared for the vote on March 7th, and it will be by Australian ballot. We'll give a short presentation, then offer a question and answer time. This is not a venue for debate of Act 46, and we cannot change any of the language in the articles at this time. They've been voted on by us or agreed upon by the committee, and they're warned as they are. Slide 1. As you can see, and you probably already are aware because you all know the area, we have a very diverse school structure throughout our Windham County area. We have schools with pre-K through 12. We have pre-K through 6 with 7 through 12 choice. We have K through 8 with 9 through 12 choice. And we have one school district with K through 12 total choice. And we have access issues with 2-lane and dirt roads into some of our areas, and compromising weather issues, making it difficult to attend events and meeting in the winter. Slide. Act 46 designates that all schools in the district have the same structure and have a pre-K through 12 as part of the structure. Early in the Act 46 discussions, it was determined that with so many different structures and access, combining all the schools utilizing Windham Central's support into one district is not feasible. So it was decided to create 2 separate districts. The West River Educational District, which is us, made up of Jamaica, Windham, Townsend, Newfane and Brookline, aka Newbrook, and Leland and Gray. And then there is the River Valleys Unified School District with Dover, Marlborough, Wardsboro, and Stratton. The study committees from the 2 shared much in common, except the River Valleys is a bit more complex on their varieties of structure. Get a tissue. Sorry. Never mind. Okay. Just hold my hand up.
Is one person on the top of that speaker in the thing?
The tissue.
Oh, look at that.
Right there.
Let's see. For the West River Valley School, we have 5 towns voting. If all 5 towns approve the articles, we become a unified union district. If only 4 towns approve the articles, we become a modified union district, and we must have at least 4 towns approving the articles. Newfane and Brookline are considered necessary, meaning if they don't approve, we cannot form any unified district regardless of the other town's approval. Leland and Gray, while not a district, as so to speak, for these purposes, is necessary for the formation because you have to be associated with a high school to go through 12. The other towns are considered advisable for the purpose of the formation. Something quite different for Leland, for Jamaica, is that all the voting for the unified district will be by Australian ballot, which we've normally done things off the floor of the town meeting. The budget will go through Australian ballot, as will positions on the board as a director. This means that to become a director on the board, one must turn in a petition with 30 signatures to their town clerk on, how many?
Well, they were supposed to have done it by yesterday, so
Yeah.
it's too late now. But nobody did submit a petition, so the 2 spots are going to be, I have to check with the Secretary of State, but it looks like it's just going to be write-ins. So think of who you want to punish and town meeting night. No, that was not a funny joke. But so, yeah, nobody petitioned, so it'll be write-ins. And if nobody gets written in, then it'll be appointed by the board.
Yeah, the board, as it will be made up from other towns that people actually put in petitions, they will appoint people, and so express your interest to them, and I'm sure they would love to have you join. And that board will be working 2 years to become operational by July 2019. Slide 3. During research, we found our students are doing slightly better in assessments than the state average in most areas, and after the elementary school principals presented PowerPoints to the committee, we found all the elementary schools are adept at offering vibrant programs under challenging obstacles such as large percentage of free and reduced meals and budget constraints. This is well worth watching if you watch anything on the videos, and I'm not sure exactly what dates they were, but they were sometime end of September, mid-end of September into October. There were 2 meetings where principals gave presentations, and it was amazing what they do. It was just incredible. Everybody was so impressed. However, we spent a good amount of time in our last few meetings discussing benefits to students, the most important hoped-for outcome of this change. While we identified multiple possibilities, these are the short list. Elementary public school choice within the new district, and a unified pre-K program has potential to offer direct benefit for students. Family could choose the school and program that best suits their needs, and our schools could continue to develop their individual culture and expertise. Another place we saw benefits was expanded cross-school participation, possibly sharing field trips, extracurricular activities, plays and concerts, visiting guests. Also, activities offered at the secondary level may be extended to the elementary, which would be something new and great. Sharing of materials and commonality of curriculum could make the transfer from elementary to middle school more seamless. Members of the public who were present at some of our meetings identified this as an extremely important goal. Thank you. Flexibility of staff assignments. With one employer, we have, and if we have enrollment challenges in one school, we may be able to move staff to maintain the continuity of faculty and keep programs whole. Much more information about the benefits to students is outlined in the report part of the articles. That's at the beginning of the articles. And actually, like an expanded version of this whole thing is in the report section of the articles. So I would highly recommend reading that.
And that's the piece that is at the door too, is the benefits, the
yeah,
handout at
and
the door.
that's right. And
That
piece
was the benefits
that's
section
out
of
of the report is the thing, the big paper that you picked up. Okay, efficiency and effectiveness. WCSU has worked over the past few years to consolidate management and educational services for efficiency across the 10 school districts it serves. However, there are some further opportunities to avoid cumbersome duplication of efforts that may be available under a new structure. Materials and equipment that belongs to individual districts could be shared because it has joint ownership amongst all the districts, and they'd not be districts anymore. But, teacher assignments, as I mentioned before, may be an area for maintaining programs without adding cost. Enhanced leadership, this was a big one. Freeing up the administrators' time and the staff time to focus on ways to improve our schools with cooperative professional development, grant applications, tracking assessments, building maintenance and needs and planning how to budget for the long term for these building needs. Administrators spend so much time going from each school board. Our superintendent goes to each school board meeting and he spends a ton of time, and he's got a lot of other work to do, so that would free him up. Slide 5. Finances. This graph to the left shows, what we did was we wanted to get a good sense of what it would look like with real numbers. So we asked the consultant to come up with something that told us, in the world we are now, if we had done this with the budgets we have, what would it look like? So we could really get a sense of what it would be. And they identified, 3 areas that we could save quite a bit of money on right off the bat. The 5 audits, which is a lot of money, accounting software, and 4 fewer school board expenses. And that would save a little over $200,000 just, with those. And there might be other things that the school board, with the ability to join together, could come up with as ways to save money. The one down here is the tax rates, and they are with the incentives. The change is with the incentives, but without the CLA. And you can see Brookline would go from 158 down 3 cents. Jamaica would go down 11 cents. Newfane would go down 7 cents. Townsend 15 cents, and Wyndham 3 cents. And of course, these are with the incentives, and the incentives change every year. And let's see, long-term financial impact would come in the form of a $221,000 grant to the new district. This grant would replace the small schools district that some of the elementary schools utilize, which Jamaica is one, and be renamed as the Merger Support Grant, and it would be available in perpetuity. And that would go to the district, and it would be used throughout the district. Plus, we'll receive $150,000 to aid the transition process for the transition to one school board, and the state will deduct the $20,000 that they gave us for the study grant, but that'll leave us $130,000 to help with the transition. And plus the tax incentives for 4 years, it's 8 cents the first year, 6 cents the next year, 4 cents the third year, and 2 cents on the last year off the homestead tax rate, and that will kick in. And again, there are opportunities that our unified board might be able to come up with and figure out for extra savings or extra benefits to students. So that's it. And now we have questions. Gotta do the thing.
One more slide.
One more slide. You're fired.
That's what he was hoping.
You said something about an incentive fee in perpetuity, you said.
That's what the state has told
That
us.
you're telling us that the state's going to give us 100 and whatever that was, $1,000
$221,000
per year.
per year.
And where's that coming from?
It was the old small schools grant, and that's the amount that, like, say, Wyndham, Jamaica, I'm not sure if Townsend was getting it, Newbrook was not. And that's what it amounts to, so we don't lose that, it just changes into.
Same money, different name.
Yes, yep. Yep, so it's not, but it's shared throughout all the school districts now, so.
Unless somebody in Montpelier decides to change their
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. Which I can't account for that.
You're leading to the obvious question, that's the elephant in the room.
Yes.
This is what we have to deal with now. How is this going to be affected by the proposed changes? Or is that just too much to ask?
According to Joe, and he was up in Montpelier last week, and he did the Townsend presentation, and I went. He said none of anything that they're talking about for changes. Mostly it's deadlines. It's not, and I did read in our brochure, in our legislative update, that most of it is deadlines, and there's nothing substantive right now that would affect any of this stuff. You know, I can't speak for another year, you know, but right now, there's nothing up that would really affect this to any great degree. It would just, you know, maybe if we didn't put this through, we would have another chance because we would have more time to study it, but I don't.
Were you asking about the tweaks to Act 46 or the governor's proposal?
Sure. Here's my concern, and I'm kind of bringing it from a different perspective, but it sounds to me, from what I've been able to read, that this makes sense independent of whether the state forces us to do it or not. Is that your position?
We're not taking a position. That's not our charge. Our charge was to study it and bring, if you read the report, you'll see there are things in there that we're not, you know, sure of. So as I know, our charge was just to study it, come up with a proposal, articles of agreement, set it up so that it can happen if once you all do the research that we've done and see what we've done, if you agree. But we're not charged with promoting one thing or the other.
But I feel like I can say that if we don't do anything and nothing changes at the state level, we will be penalized.
They will do something for us.
I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that some people want to know, if there's a no vote, what does that mean?
So if there's no vote, the other option is we can ask the state to allow us to stay with the current structure that we have. The likelihood that after years of studying and going through the Act 46 process, that the state is going to allow us to maintain the current structure is pretty unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. In
Especially
which
since
case,
we have a union high school.
correct. In which case, the State Board of Education will impose what they feel is necessary for changes. That's very nice. I can't see you at all.
Well, I was trying to move it and I can't for the TV. I don't want to move it, so.
I can turn it off.
Can you turn it off?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Question. Can you clarify a little bit about the election of the school board in this new one? I understand the two large positions would need to be done by Australian ballot, but do the ones that come from Jamaica also have to be?
All are Australian ballot, so it's very different.
What about I understood when reading the article, something about each individual school would have a committee, like a public committee that works with the,
That if, yeah.
It would be just like a group, not an elected.
Like a school
Just like-
advisor
right, like a school
group
club
or
kind of
something. Yep.
volunteer.
No vote or anything like that, but
but all the school directors would have to be done by us.
yes, yeah, and that's very different for us.
Right.
So, and this will be Australian ballot on town meeting day.
Yeah, well, that I understood, and I can see the two at large being by Australian ballot, but I would have thought that our two local ones could have still been done under the old way.
And the at-large are from any community. They need to get 60 signatures, but they can get signatures from any community. They can get 60 from their town, or they can split it up through all the towns.
And that's not till next year. We don't
No.
elect any at-large until next year. If
Because,
this passes on town meeting.
yeah.
But do we
This-
elect any, though, this year, right?
Yes.
No at-large, because if an at-large person from a town that maybe votes no, they'd be on the board. So that,
But our two local ones or whatever, they'll have to elect this year by Australian ballot.
Yes.
yeah, but write-in, because nobody did
do
petition
write-in.
this yet.
Well, it was kind of short notice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
So technically, in 2019, there's going to be no school board meeting at the town meeting. Because there's no point.
Right. there's
Right.
not
Everything, the
separate.
budget's
Yeah.
Australian ballot,
Yeah.
and all the candidates from the town are Australian ballot.
It'll be
There'll be
like the Leland and Gray annual meeting.
Annual
And
meeting.
that'll be it. Okay.
Make school town meetings shorter,
No, it's not the way I'd
half
like
a
it to
day.
go,
No, I know.
but it's a good week.
Where would the center of the universe be for the schools?
That would be up to the board. When they are voted in, they decide where they're going to do their meetings and things. We couldn't dictate those kind of things in the articles because it would kind of micromanage, and that's not. So it would be wherever the board decided, which, I mean, I can only assume they might think Leland and Gray is a nice center point, and it's easy to get there from everywhere, you know, except Wyndham, poor Wyndham. It's fine.
I just want to let you know that those slides that you just saw are on the blog site. You can click on them. And I was informed that there weren't enough links directly to the articles, that people were having trouble finding them. That's my fault. Sorry about that. So I just patched it in there a few more times, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. The link takes you to a Google Doc, and if you can't load the Google Doc, just hit the little download button and it'll download for you as a PDF. So if anybody was inconvenienced, sorry about that, but it's fixed now.
Good with that little phone.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about school choice at the elementary school level, please? Like, what would that be, like total choice, or would it be a limit of number of students, or?
As long as there's availability in the school that they choose, the students from that town would have first choice. And then if there's spots left and somebody wanted to come in
Within the district.
within the
Right.
district.
Would there be a deadline? What
No.
time you
The
have
board
to-
is going to have to come up with a more specific plan for that. We couldn't really come up with the details, but they'll have to have a system in place, obviously.
Yeah, well, it would be, elementary schools will have to adjust, be ready for
Yeah.
whoever's coming in. It will be
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah,
I don't
we have
have any idea to the last minute.
Transportation logistics to figure out too, so there's a lot to figure out about that, but we thought that might be a nice thing to add in. No, I'm sorry, not you.
It sounds like there's clearly, we either vote to do this, consolidate, or the state will do something for us.
Or let us stay as we are.
Or let us stay as we are, but that's highly unlikely because the act is designed to consolidate. Is there any, so if there's any chance that the state would let us stay as we are,
Not, but
So you say there isn't really. So either do this on our own and go forward in our own with some minimal control. Has the state indicated all what they would do if we vote this down, how they would redistrict Jamaica?
They have not come out with a, if you vote no, we're going to do this to you.
But it sounds odd to me because if we voted no, and the state turned around and did the very thing you were planning to do,
yeah,
so then where are we?
then you have some
Then
upset
we're
people.
penalized.
Right.
On top
You're
of-
penalized. There are people who feel it's highly likely that since the state has already approved these plans, that they'll just say, well, we already approved your plans, just do that. So there are many people who are making that suggestion, that they would just come in and say, well, it's goozy, but here it is anyway.
And then
Only
you've
on-
lost all the
And then
incentives.
we
you've
lost
lost the
the
incentives.
incentives. Well, that makes sense.
So I think one of the topics of discussion that we've had a lot on the finance side, and I think we should talk about kids at some point tonight, is that what we have now is not sustainable. And if anybody has not been in a school board meeting recently, trying to put a school budget together with the current declining enrollment and education funding formula, then you should really pay attention. I can tell you from a Leland and Gray perspective, this budget cycle has not been pleasant. There's a discussion going on tonight about pretty significant per pupil increases, which is going to have a huge effect on taxes. And we're going to be talking about even further either cuts, changes in programs, or increases in taxes next year. And I know the elementary school is in the same boat. So even if we like what we have now, we really want to keep what we have now, it's not a sustainable model in the long term. And I see a little bit of, nodding of heads from board members that have been trying to navigate through these challenges and trying to figure out how to keep our schools funded and educating kids. So I think we are at a point where we've got to do something different. There's not a lot of great options. Certainly nobody really likes the idea of kind of losing our local control and our local school board and maybe our local school, but we know from sitting on these boards and trying to figure out how to pay the bill that we can't come back to the taxpayers year after year with 10 and 12% increases in property taxes. So that's why we're having this tough discussion.
There's a financial analysis at the end of the Articles of Agreement in the attachments, and it shows for each town what's going to happen if say we vote no, and let's say by some crazy chance the state doesn't do anything and lets us stay the way we are, but they will still take away our small schools grant, and they will still not let us have our phantom students anymore. So that's going to raise our per pupil spending from, in this year it was $15,600, it would be $21,395. So that's a 62-cent increase, which is a lot. So that kind of shocked me when I saw those numbers.
One of the things that I read in the paper, and maybe this doesn't have anything significant, they were very concerned about the size of the district being 600, and with the numbers that you had up on the board, it's 571, something like that. Whatever happened to that number in terms of still allowing us to have our own district? Because what I read was that we would somehow be connected with Brattleboro in order to get to that number that they were looking for, the state.
So the state has accepted our articles, reviewed the articles. So what we're doing is what's called a side-by-side with the other district. So assuming that both votes pass, in Wyndham Central we'll have a side-by-side with all of the students in the two districts.
Meaning
The West River,
Uh-huh.
get 'em right. The West
Or
River,
West River,
the West River, their River Valley.
Okay.
So with both votes passing, then we have enough students, and the state has approved that.
So that is a problem, that can become a problem.
It's not a problem. The state Board of Education has already approved these articles and allowing us to do
And
this should we
the
go
other
forward.
district has agreed.
Oh, yeah,
To
we've
be
been all
with us.
working
Yep.
in concert.
They meet.
They have to vote on it as well on town meeting.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if the River Valley does not vote their district in, we are not affected though.
Correct.
But
We
if
can
we don't
still-
vote ours in, they can't do theirs.
Yeah, because they don't have a high school of record to say they're going to. Right. Because you need a pre-K through 12. So, and they wouldn't have that.
But it all depends on Newfane as to what happens.
Yes.
And the reason why Newfane is necessary is because Newfane and Brookline are merged.
Yeah, I guess.
So a no vote by one of them is a no vote from both of them. So it would be 2, and you need the majority in order to carry it. So that's why Newfane is the only necessary town. Newfane and Brookline together.
Is there any light as to the way they're thinking?
No idea.
Their presentation is coming up. It's on the mailer. So that might be an interesting meeting to go to. You might, or you can watch it on TV after.
So some of the, a lot of the discussion that we had about students and about educational opportunities actually came from the Newbert experiment, where Newfane and Brookline did merge. They merged under a different structure, a joint contract board, so technically are 2 different school districts operating a single school. But a lot of the discussion we had looked at the success that they've had with reducing costs, increasing educational opportunities for kids in their school. That did involve them closing the Brookline school and moving all those students to Newfane. But that's a lot of what we looked at. So when you talk to Newfane taxpayers, one of the conversations we've had with them is, we've already done this. We've already achieved the efficiency that you're asking for. Why should we be joining with you guys? You haven't done it yet. So their discussion is going to be a little bit different because they've already seen the huge cost savings from the merging of districts and the increased class sizes that come from reducing staff and putting students in the same building. So it's a little bit different conversation in Newfane, but it's a good model to look at as to what could be available to our kids.
Every town has their unique issues with this, or pros and cons. Wyndham is tough because they have such a small school and they just cherish that school and don't want to give it up. And so language had to be drafted that in the articles that indicated a school will not close unless there are no students going to that school. So that would be, or there's a vote, but not a town vote, but it will not, the board cannot suggest that school close. The new board cannot suggest that school close unless there are no children going to school there. As long as there's one child going to school there, which it would kind of go away on its own if it gets to a point where there's not enough kids, really. I think parents would say, it's like, but that was one of the things they were very, very adamant about, and we understood. I think we all tried to understand everybody's different little things that they were concerned about.
So can you talk a little bit about what you see as the advantage in terms of the kids as opposed to the financial advantages?
Thatcher, you'd like to talk about kids?
I love to talk about kids. That's why I go to these meetings. This was a tough conversation. We met for many months and kind of worked our way through the pieces of the law, the mechanics of the school, and really at the end had a discussion about kids. And one of the comments that came out of it is it's very difficult to have definite benefits for kids. We can't sit here and say that, my student who's in 3rd grade is going to have something that they don't have today, because we can't impose changes on the new board. So what we've put together are possibilities of increased educational opportunities, but we can't give you guarantees of improved educational opportunities for the kids. So the advantages really come come from a district-wide pre-K program to all of the districts, depending on whether you live in Jamaica, whether you live in Townsend or Newfane. The opportunities for our 3 and 4-year-olds are very, very different. Some schools have programs, others tuition their students out to private preschools at a minimum number of hours per week. So access to pre-K is one of the opportunities that we highlighted. The school choice, elementary school choice, is something that we had a lot of conversation about. And it would let parents choose the culture and the environment that they want their students to learn in. So the presentations we had from the principals were very helpful in understanding that we have, different elementary schools. Each one of them has a different specialty, a different culture, a different environment. So if you're looking for that small school, multi-grade type environment for your kids, you may want to think about sending your kids to Wyndham. If you're looking for a 1 class, 1 grade model, it may make more sense for you to opt to send your kid to Newfane. So creating the opportunities from that choice, I think, gives families and parents more flexibility with their kids. Assuming that through all of the possible savings from consolidating our administration, some of the other tasks from bookkeeping to audits, hopefully there would be additional funding for additional programs. We talked about having the ability to kind of repurpose some of those savings into other things that our kids may want, but nothing specific. Staff and resource development, we had a lot of discussion about having all of the teachers and administrators on the same page in the district. Being able to have common curriculum across the district so that the students going into Leland and Gray are all at the same place. Being able to do more professional development across districts, getting 3rd grade teachers in all the schools together, sharing more ideas. A lot of that's happening now, but giving us greater flexibility. The other ideas of flexible staffing, moving teachers where their expertise could be used most. So we've had discussions about taking that teacher that really likes environmental science and maybe having them teach at a different school. So they could do a program in one school and maybe a program in another school at a different time. So being able to expand the specialties of each of our staff into educating more students throughout the district. But again, we can't mandate what the new board is going to do. We can suggest to them that there are opportunities for kids, and these are some of the ideas that we came up with. Does that answer your question?
Specifically about pre-K, so you said that right now there's all different things offered. What exactly will be offered in the new?
There's no guarantee. So, and that's something that I think is really important to understand. We have articles of agreement, but the articles don't bind the new board to do anything. Okay, the articles create the new governance structure, but they do not bind this board to do anything.
Do they bind the board to say that all the schools will do exactly the same thing for pre-K?
It does not.
Not even that?
Nope.
Okay.
We just have to provide pre-K, so
Correct.
It could
we could
be
still
that they're
only
still
have it
tuitioning
here in
out.
Townsend, and just kids from Newfane have to send their kids here in Townsend, but they could get that full day free school.
So you guys will be voting on a governance structure change, but you are not mandating anything to the new board. If the new board wants to change something that's in the article, they can. It is not.
It's not a law.
It's not in stone. So.
But isn't it true, as part of Act 46, that the schools, as they merge, nobody will decrease their offerings or their opportunities?
I would hope that we would not see a
And
reduction.
it's in Act 46, that's a stipulation.
I would hope that we would not see a reduction in services to kids.
I would hope. Would you explain that a little bit more?
Well, example right now is, I'll take Leland and Gray's budget. Right now, we have a dropping enrollment at Leland and Gray. And based on the current state funding formula, next year, we're gonna be looking at a larger gap between our available per pupil spending and our current budget. That may result in programs and offerings being cut to children. So to say that nothing is going to get cut, if we go through this Act 46 merger process, would be sitting in front of you and lying to you, and I won't do that. Hopefully, we can come up with new creative ways to provide the educational opportunities we have, but we do have to realize that our student enrollment, even if we merge, is dropping. And our current state funding formula is based on per pupil spending. So as we lose students, the cost per pupil increases, and the state penalizes us for increased per pupil spending. So if you listen to the governor's budget address, the governor is looking at attaching spending directly to per pupil increases and decreases on an annual basis. So to sit here and say that nothing's going to change, I can't do that. It is likely to change.
I mean,
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter
Yeah.
whether we do this or not.
Yep.
but it's hoped that under one school board, the changes will not be hugely dramatic, that, that they will be able to hopefully come up with, there's all kinds of new teaching things out there now that are different, the ways of assessing them, that there's just different practices out there right now that, like the Leland and Gray administration is looking at, that would be less expensive to offer, and it's just an assessment that's based on a different thing than we do now, and testing and things like that. It's more an experiential thing than necessarily sitting in a classroom all day. So there's all that kind of stuff that might, make it less expensive to educate our kids. And with one board, you could do that throughout, slowly morph it up from pre-K all the way up through and save money that way, and still offer much more incredibly vibrant offerings and in a way that kids love to learn. Like the Montessori kind of way of learning. So if there's anything possible.
Okay, so.
You fit your limited
I
questions.
know what your answer's gonna be, but, so in terms of school choice, I'm guessing you can't tell me exactly when that would start, but can you tell me the earliest at which it would start? Like if people are looking at which school year they might make a change?
2019.
September of 2019 would be the
Yes.
first school year that there might possibly be school choice.
Correct.
Between the districts.
Yep. That would be the first year of the operating new board, or new school system.
So is it possible that it could be that it wouldn't happen until later than that if the new board decided
possible,
to
yep.
wait for some reason? Okay.
Yeah.
And again, the new board gets to set the criteria, the time frame.
So talk to your board members. Communicate loudly.
Get some board members.
Yeah, become some board members.
May I highlight something you said, Drew?
Sure.
One thing that I'm hoping that could improve under the new structure is curriculum alignment, and you alluded to that. Since we have been here, there has been a problem in the supervisory union with kids coming from all the districts, going to Leland and Gray, coming from 6th grade into 7th grade, they're kind of all over the board. And that's really hard on the teachers in 7th grade, it's hard on the kids. And math is the thing that suffers the most for that. And over the years, Leland and Gray has struggled with their math scores. And I'm hoping that that's something that could improve. Right now, it's hard because the accountability to the supervisory union is weak, in my opinion. And hopefully with one board, the expectations could be stronger for all of the schools to agree on what the kids should know and what they should be able to do, and then the follow-through to that be stronger. So that can be accomplished, and not just for math, but for all of the subjects, the curriculum alignment could improve.
Has there been any, in the math, as you were talking about, any particular school where it was a fault of going into Leland and Gray? I mean, let's say Jamaica, Wadsboro, or Brookline, Newfane. I mean, is there any study ever taken as to the students coming out of a particular school as to what?
I'm sure
What
the
they're lacking.
administration knows, is aware, but we don't.
Yeah.
That wasn't anything that would be for our purposes.
Laura's in the back, she's got it.
Yeah.
I can speak a little bit to this, specifically with regards to math, because there is a SU math committee that's been in operation for 4 years, I believe, that I facilitate. And so we do have and have developed with professional development throughout the supervisory union. We do have grade level documents, and of course we all operate under the Common Core, and so that is what brings us together. And then specific to scores, what we found is really interesting, because kids leave the elementary school scoring well. When they hit junior high, their scores dip. So really analyzing why does that happen. And yes, even though we're all using the same standards and teaching to those standards, the approach may be different. And I think when they get to 7th grade, because there are multiple approaches, perhaps that, that is maybe an underlying cause for the dip in the assessment scores there. Does that help a little bit? Hopefully? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I recall I forgot to introduce everybody. I had it on my piece of paper. So why don't we go and introduce ourselves?
Oh, I'm Pam Tweedy.
I'm Patty Dixon.
Drew Hazelton.
And Anita Raphael was our communications person. Jeff Dixon was our tech guy tonight. And our consultant made the PowerPoint for us.
So you can email a question if you wake up at 2 o'clock this morning and have a question, just go on the blog site and email it. It comes to me and I forward it to the committee members who can answer it. So give me till the morning to reopen my email and I'll pass that along. You can come to any one of the other meetings. There's going to be Newfane and then Wyndham and then a final meeting in Townsend. So you're certainly welcome to come to another meeting and ask some more questions and get right answers. And if there's some piece of information that's still missing, let us know. We'll dig it out and get it directly to you or post it on the blog site or whatever. That's whatever you need to make an informed vote. We're happy to get that info to you. And tell people about stuff. If you can rustle up a few more people to send to meetings or come to meetings or ask questions or sign their name on a ballot. Write your own name in. We can do all that.
The current Jamaica School Board also has 2 positions open, so there's lots of possibility to get involved with school board stuff right now.
And Leland and Gray's got openings.
And could people serve on both boards, the new one and the old
Yes,
one?
you can serve on both boards. You can.
Yes.
You can serve on all 3 boards
Yeah.
if you'd like.
Really
Right.
Well, I think what's happened is that people have worked really hard the last couple of years on this Act 46 stuff, and they're tired.
Been
It would
burned
be really
out
great to have
city.
the next wave come along and sort of move this forward. Because,
It's been a lot.
already a huge community effort has taken place. So.
And that was one of the things that was mentioned in the study, that they were finding it hard to find school board members. And this would reduce that number. And, you get rid of all of these other school boards and do it. The other important thing that I wanted to emphasize was, these are not my children, these are our children. And I think that has to be looked at when we look at the whole picture. It's our kids in this whole SU, not just my kids in this district or in this school.
And the Leland and Gray board is a good example, I think, of how that can work and how you just, as a board member, you just kind of automatically, I think, you shift your focus from your town to the whole, because that's what you're supposed to do, and that's the only way it'll really work, is if you do that. And it just kind of happens and flows, and yeah.
Sorry if you touched base on this in the beginning, I wasn't here. But is there, and I know there's a new board, so obviously you may not be able to answer this directly, but is there a threshold for Jamaica to stay open? Like a certain number of students, and how you mentioned is the same thing for Wyndham, one student?
Yeah,
and
or
then-
the
okay.
town
Or the town
decides
votes to.
vote to
Yeah,
do it.
okay.
It's not something the board can suggest or do anything about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So realistically, even if there's one student, it's technically running. Okay.
May not make financial sense.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely,
Somebody
absolutely.
that's
Or
approved by the
educationally,
town.
Right.
the right thing to do.
Right.
I just still think that at a certain particular point, parents would say, you know, there's opportunities, because Wyndham is a very vibrant program. It's incredible what they do there. And watching that video, you'd see it, it's amazing. But the diversity and things they created by traveling around and going to different places, but eventually, you know, parents might say, you know, I'm ready to, you know, expand, and I think by then Wyndham would be ready, and they could even grow through this, who knows? You know, anything can happen. So.
Any other questions? Any questions for the Jamaica board? They happen to be here and it's their meeting.
Yeah.
About the budget?
You mean you want us to ask more?
I just put them on the spot.
You have to move to adjourn since this is technically a meeting.
Oh, yeah. Somebody has to make a motion to adjourn. If we're done, are we done?
Are we done?
Does anybody have
If
any?
anybody has questions after that you want to ask, we'll be sticking around for a while, so we're glad to answer those.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you. I'll second. All in favor?
All right.
We got Leland and Gray questions too. We can help maybe answer some of those if you were torn between what meeting to go to.